Welcome to the My Creative Days podcast, where we will talk about all things DIY, home decor, decorating tips, and creating a beautiful home on a budget. I am hoping our time together will spark a creative idea, help you plan your next DIY, or inspire you to finally tackle that project you keep putting off. Grab your favorite cup of motivation and let's chat. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. This is the house flipping series. It's episode 7 of the house flipping series I am doing because of the many questions I've received over the years, but more specifically recently because we have taken on 3 houses. We bought 3 houses in this past year. And so a lot of the content I was sharing was over, just the different DIYs and the different things that we were doing inside of these houses. If this is a first time episode you're tuning into, I've just been kind of walking through every stage of flipping. And like I said, this is just a little series within the podcast that I'm doing. People had asked me to maybe do a membership or a subscription or something to really dive deeper into flipping and, answer the questions people, even more, if that makes sense. And I really don't want to spend the money and the time and the effort and everything that goes into something like creating my Furniture Flipping Academy unless I know there is enough interest in it. So I thought what I would do is just break down the most asked questions that I've received about flipping houses into this series on the podcast. And then with the feedback I get from this, and if, more people reach out to me, then maybe we could do something else with it as well. But I just don't want to go through all of that. The Furniture Flipping Academy was a lot. It does cost a lot to put those kinds of things together, and it's a lot of time and it's a lot of help and people I, am paying to help me do all those things. So I just want to make sure the interest is there. So I thought, what better way to do this than to kind of break it up into bite-sized chunks and into kind of different topics that I've received the most questions about house flipping. So as always, if you find this podcast helpful or, somebody that could use this information or is looking for this information, please share the podcast. I always appreciate it so much when you share the podcast. So let's dive in. If you have listened over the past few weeks, like I said, this is just a small series within the entire podcast. The podcast we've done years of content, but this is just kind of the furniture flipping series that we're doing, just in case you are just tuning in for the first time now. So far, what I have touched on is how to know if flipping is right for you. And we are talking about house flipping in this series, not furniture flipping. I do a ton of content about that as well. And like I already said, the Furniture Flipping Academy, if you don't know, is cheaper now than your cell phone bill, your internet bill. I have lowered the price. The team did not want me to, but I have lowered it so that is not an excuse for anybody anymore. So we should have the link in the show notes, so check it out. So episode 1, I talked about if flipping is right for you. Is house flipping right for you? In episode 2, how to find the right property, because there is the right property and 100 wrong properties. And then the next one we did was how to estimate repairs, and then how to create budgets and timelines, and what to DIY, what to hire out, and how to handle the unexpected, because that will always happen. That's a guarantee in every flip. And today we're tackling one of the questions that I get a lot about, and that's how do you pay for a flip? How do you finance a flip without going broke? Because I think that's where a lot of people freeze, right? And I'm going to be completely honest. If I hadn't had my dad, I've shared this before, but my dad used to flip houses, not full time. He was always in construction, but if a house came up, and he got it at a good price, he would flip. He never rented. He would flip a house to sell. And, when Matt and I got married, and then just along the way, if he had one, and like I said, it was not something he did every year. Like where me and Matt, we would do multiple a year. Either flip to sell or flip to rent, but they're just not that easy to find sometimes. But anyway, if I didn't have my dad to help me or to just kind of see what he did, I think this is where we would have froze as well. But Matt and I are doing things with financing that my dad never did. And my dad would be blown away by some of the things, there's just a lot of options out there for you. And I think my dad just kind of stayed in his bubble and in his box. I'm grateful for everything he taught us, and we would not have done all the flips that we've done without my dad. I can honestly tell you that. But we've done so much more and done so many different things that I'm excited that I get to now hopefully help somebody else. So financing can be intimidating, but it honestly doesn't have to be. And I'm going to be completely honest. I am somebody that I get anxious about money, financing. I am somebody that does the checkbook down, all the time. And I want to be ahead of things and on top of things. With all of these houses, I have given some of that over to Matt, which is good. I've always done our finances. I've always done the budgeting. And Matt's always like, we are where we are because the way you do things. But especially with the last 3 that we just got, I'm like, hey, why don't you handle this part of it all? And so it's just been better for me. But I don't want financing to be intimidating for you. There are lots of ways to fund a flip house without going broke. And you don't need a pile of cash sitting around to get started. So number 1, I think you need to understand your financing options, right? And I guess I should say here, I am not a tax professional. I am not a financial professional. I would never give you financial advice or tax advice, or you need to go to your, accountant for that. You need to go to your people for that. Okay. So I am just talking about our experience and kind of hearing from somebody that's going through it or has done it. That's my job. So I am going to just share some of the most common ways to fund a flip. Now, there are more than these, but these I'm just going to go through are the most common. Cash, the simplest route, right? Not always the smartest. It's great if you have it, but don't tie up all of your money. I'm going to repeat this for Lindsay in the back, who needed to really get this and understand it. I saw it all on paper. And I was like, okay, I get it. It sounds good. Let's go. And then when it came down to it, I was like, but wait. So don't tie up all of your money, right? You still need a cushion for emergencies, both for the project and your personal life. So you definitely want to, not just wipe out your account to buy a house, right? I don't know how far I should go into that. So Matt and I have bought many of our projects with cash. When you get 3 in a year, I did not want to wipe out all of our cash. So we bought some with cash, and then it was like, wait a minute, there's another way to do this, right? And I'm going to talk about that here later on. So I did not want to wipe out all of our cash because we still, we have 2 kids that are in college. We have, we just wanted to have that cushion. We also needed the cash cushion for 2 of the houses we actually worked on. The 3rd house, the tenants stayed in it. They've been there for 7 years. So there were a couple of things that we fixed, but other than that, we haven't done a full rehab on that. But there were 2 houses that we had to do a full rehab on. So we needed that cash flow, right, to do those projects. So the next one is obviously a traditional bank loan. These can work if the house is livable, but banks usually won't finance a home that needs major repairs, right? This is often more suitable for cosmetic flips or lighter renovations. So this is going to be something where I tell people this. You need to go into your bank and talk to the loan officers. Sit down with them and let them know. Home equity loans. If you have equity in your own home, HELOC can give you access to lower interest funds. But just remember, your home is the collateral, right? So use this carefully and strategically. So this came about for us as well at one point because, to be completely honest, we did not know we were buying 3 houses. So what happened is one came about in the most craziest, I've shared this story on the podcast. I'm not going to get into it again, but at a funeral of all things, it came about. So we're like, yes, let's do it. And so we were able to pay cash for that one. And then we literally got contacted by somebody else that said, I'm ready to move and I want you guys to buy our house. So we were like, oh, okay. Like, okay, all right. So I want to say we got it. I can't remember. It was the end of November. We got the first one. So December, the next one in May, and I think the next one in July. So anyway, that second person reached out to us and was like, oh, okay, we're ready to move. And so we knew that was going to be a great deal. So we're like, okay, we can figure this out. And this is where it was like, I don't want to wipe out everything. And then literally we got a call from the first house that we bought and she was ready to sell another one. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So like now we really got to like dig deep and we got to figure out what our options are. I'm taking a quick break from the episode to share some exciting news with you. If you have ever wanted to flip furniture for extra cash, a creative outlet, or to build a business but didn't know where to start, there's never been a better time. My Furniture Flipping Academy is now just $79, which is over $200 off the original price. Inside, you'll learn how to find amazing pieces on a budget or for free, how to transform them step by step, sanding, painting, staging, all the things, how to price and sell for real profit, and even know how to work with brands to grow your flipping business in more ways than you know. And that's just the start. There is so much more waiting for you inside the Academy. We have so much packed inside the Academy. It's completely self-paced. Once you buy it, it's yours for life. There are no deadlines. There's no pressure. We do have a sneak peek inside the link in the show notes. It will give you a glimpse inside the Academy. And here's the truth. Nothing changes unless you do. You can keep waiting for the right time, or you can take this step now. At $79, the price isn't holding you back anymore. So stop hesitating. Stop making excuses. Click the link and get started today. So one of the options was, we have a ton of equity in our own home. And so that was one of the options. But I'm going to talk about another option that we kind of went with one of the houses that we bought. Hard money loans. So these are short-term loans designed for investors. They're fast, flexible, but come with a higher interest rate. The key is to run your numbers carefully. And that's with all of these. So with all of these, you should definitely go into your bank and say, okay, what's the difference? What's it look like for me for all of these options? If you can flip it quickly, so that means you're selling it, hard money may make sense to you. But the project has to stay on track, right? Because you don't want to get hit with that, whatever the time limit is, and you're still stuck with the property and it hasn't sold. Do you know what I'm saying? And you're still working on it, if that makes sense. So again, if you are honestly thinking about flipping, you need to go into your bank and get your options all written out. Just to say, even if you don't have a house you're looking at, say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I want to know what my options are. So, I have this much in the bank, so if I find a house for this amount of money, you want to have a ton of knowledge, because I'm telling you, if you've listened to the podcast before this, in this series, a house will come to you while you're sitting at a funeral, for gosh sakes. So you want to be able to come to them with confidence and be like, oh yeah, really? Let me go look at the house and go through all those motions. But you want to confidently say, hey, I can negotiate this and know what you can do. So make sure that you know this. You just make an appointment with them. They will sit down and talk to you. They are happy to do it. This is their business. This is what they do, right? The next one is private money or partnerships. So this can be a great one. And we have done this one before. Maybe you're going to partner with someone or somebody that doesn't want to actually, do the work, overlook the work, have to have, Tom, Larry, and Joe come into the house and fix all the things. They'd want no part of that. But yet they have some money that they could give you to help fund it. And then you will, pay them back when you sell it or when you rent it or when you, whatever you guys come up with. And then you're going to have obviously some interest on that. So this way you're not going through a bank, but you're going through somebody else that may have funds that maybe wants to, just get a little interest on some of their money for the next 6 months or whatever it is that, your timeline is. It's a win-win if you structure it right. Always get everything in writing. Just make sure you do that. Percentages, profit splits, responsibilities, and it may look different. Maybe it's somebody that wants to go in with you 50-50 and they're going to be help with, all the project and, You guys are going to split what you're doing. But again, maybe it's just going to be somebody that's going to be sitting from the back, and going to give you the money. They know you're going to do the work. You're going to get it done when you say you're going to get it done. They'll be paid back, blah, blah, blah. So that is a great one if you have that option. The next one is also a great one. And another one that I can talk about is the BRRRR method. And I want to say I did a full episode about this, or maybe I just talked about this in another episode. But basically, the BRRRR method is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And this came about because we got 3 houses in less than a year. So I did not want to use the equity in our own home because we were also to a point where we were thinking about, we still are, if we found the right house, we would move. So I just didn't want anything tied up with our house, and Matt didn't either. So we had heard so much about the BRRRR method. I had researched it. I had looked into it, all the things. So this is becoming really popular. And it's really worth understanding. And it was funny because when we went into the bank and we were talking about this, we basically went in and said, hey, we bought this house, but now we have 2 more coming up. And so again, we need to know our options. So he talked about our own house. We talked about the BRRRR method. And I said the BRRRR method and he's like, what? And I was like, please tell me you're joking. And then I was telling him, buy, rehab, like I was telling him the whole thing. He's like, oh, yes. So basically, the idea here is that you buy a property that needs work. You rehab it, so you fix it up. Then instead of selling it, so this is if you want to rent, you're going to rent it out. Once it's established or it's stabilized and it's generating income, you refinance it, which lets you pull some or all of your cash back out that you put into it. Then you repeat the process with that same money. Okay, so basically, and this is something we learned too, for us to get all the money out, your house has to be rented for a year. And that house, so you may get like 80% of your cash that you put in. And the house has to be rented, even though like we have the one property where the tenants have been there for 7 years. Well, they haven't been there 7 years with us. I was like, what? That wasn't communicated with us until we were like signing on the dotted line. Because I was like, wait, what? Not even signing on the dotted line, but when we got the appraisal back and all of that, I'm like, why is it only 80%, blah, blah, blah. So just keep that in mind. I'm pretty sure that is straight across the board, but maybe your loan officer will have something different. Just keep that in mind. So now when these people, so the 3 that we have are rentals, we're renting them out. Once they've been in there for a year, we can pull that full amount out if we needed to, if that makes sense. So just keep that in mind because that was something I didn't get. And I was pretty upset that I don't know if it was something I missed or he just didn't tell us. But just make sure that you understand that. It's not traditional flipping, but it can be a smart hybrid strategy if you want to build long-term wealth and still do renovations. It works best when interest rates are reasonable and rental markets are strong. We can go ahead and refinance if we want to, if the rates drop drastically. It requires patience. So this isn't a quick profit model. So before we have had rentals in the past, but before, around then we were also flipping to sell. And flipping to sell is great. And if we could get, properties, quickly, and just like they were so easy to get, it might be a little bit different. But since it's not so as easy as everybody think, or as HGTV show makes you think that it is, it's like you flip it, you get that cash, and then it's, you can reinvest it and do whatever. But whereas you're renting, you're getting that income every month, and your renters are paying for that loan. So if you're doing the BRRRR method, the whatever, your renters are paying the loan. And we did it. We got it. We only borrowed. So I did not want to wipe out all of our money. Our cash flow is what I should say. And then I didn't, when we were doing the, the refinances, we didn't, one renter is paying for the loan to get 3 houses, if that makes sense. So what I'm saying is we paid cash for the first one, and then we did the refinance for the next two. And then one rental property is bringing in more than enough to cover that loan payment. So if you can work it out there. So because the bank was like, hey, we can give you, XYZ, this amount of money. And we were like, no, you're not going to sell us on that. We only need this amount of money. We wanted to stay under what one rental was bringing in per month. Because that's all we needed. It's not like we needed a full amount to fund the full purchase price, if that makes sense. We had money that we could use, but yet to be smart and not get rid of all of our cash flow and still have ample cash flow, we wanted the loan to be, we got the loan and the renter, one rental is paying for that a month and then some. It is an amazing way to scale if you want to flip to rent. So if you're trying to hold on some properties for passive income. And where we are right now, that's where Matt and I want to be. And we have two kids that, all three of the properties we have right now, they would be unbelievable, first houses for our kids when they're out of college and ready to, fully rent on their own, or maybe they have a friend that wants to come in with them. So we're thinking about, our kids and, beyond that as well. Even if you never plan to rent, the mindset of the BRRRR method, thinking long-term, protecting equity and reinvesting profits, it's a great way to approach flipping sustainably. Again, there's going to be more options, but those are your main options. Please go see a loan officer and go to your bank and just see what your options are. If you know somebody that might want to help you like privately, start talking to them to see what that would look like. Okay, so number 2, how to finance a flip without going broke is keeping your carrying costs and your interest low. Financing your flip is one thing, but managing the cost of that financing is another. So carrying costs, you have to think about carrying costs when you're flipping. Interest, insurance, taxes, utilities. They can eat up a profit fast if you're not tracking them closely. What you need to do, so here's one thing that I do. So I kind of, whenever we have a flip, it's like, even before when we were flipping to sell, people would be like, okay, how long is it going to take you to get this done? Max was 4 months. I was right at 3 months. I'm like, we can get this done. And that's again with Matt and I working full time. And people used to think that I was crazy, but I'm like, I knew how much these were, the projects were costing us. The longer we took, the more money it's taking, right? The more money I'm losing. And I shouldn't say losing because it's an investment, but you know what I mean? Like I'm not making money. You need to, so this is kind of how you keep them in check. Have your team ready before you close. So the faster you start the work, the less time your financing sits idle, right? So you need to have a clear plan for that day that you get the keys and open the door for the first time as an owner. Know your monthly carrying costs. Write them down before you buy the property so you know exactly how long you can hold it before the profit starts disappearing. And I will do things like, your electrical bill in the house. You're not going to run the air or the heat as if you were living there, right? So you're going to keep those at a level they need to be at, obviously, for workers and you being there working. But, you're not going to have lights on all the time, right? So they are lower than if you were living there. But yet you want to make sure, like that's one thing I do. When we leave the project, I want to make sure all lights are off. The heat and air is, where it needs to be, or it's off if you really don't need it. Those kinds of things. It's so funny because I'm just like laser focused on how much money is just going out the window or out the door that doesn't need to be. Avoid early payoff penalties. So this is key for short-term projects. So make sure that when you're talking to your loan person that you don't have penalties for early payoff. So what we have, if I were to pay it all off tomorrow, there's no penalties. So definitely that's one of the questions you want to ask when you're talking about your options. Stay organized, period. Just stay organized. Keep your costs, exactly what you're spending. It's not fancy at all. It does not have to be. If you want to just keep a notebook with pen and paper, it does not have to be fancy, but that's how you stay on top of your budget and your timeline. So what beginners should know before financing? So understand every fee. Don't just look at interest rates, right? So add in closing costs if you've got those, origination fees, inspection costs, it just depends. Like this, I'm just giving you the baseline because it's going to look all different. For us, we buy all of our houses as is. So we don't have an inspection per se, but we do have, well, not since my dad's health has declined so fast, but my dad was our inspector. He would come through our projects back in the day and say, this is what you'll need to buy. This is what you'll need to fix. This, you know what I mean? Which was great. And so Matt and I are just doing that on our own. We do have some other family members that if there was something specific that we needed, we would definitely call them and say, hey, can we walk through one more time? We're going to bring in so-and-so just to check something out. But we are buying the houses as is. Closing costs. So like no matter if you're working with a realtor or not, Matt and I all of our houses have been word of mouth. But we still have closing costs. So we just go through a closing company where it's a few $100s. They have the lawyers and the legal do all the paperwork and get the abstract and get like all of that. All of that's done for you. And it's a couple $100s, whereas a realtor would be thousands of dollars. And if you're not going to use a realtor, that is something that you can, talk about with your negotiations. And that is one thing that has helped me when I am negotiating. Matt does not want to do any of that part. Matt's fine painting the walls and stuff, but other than that, he just doesn't want to deal with all the other stuff, especially for a seller. Because if you're buying a house without a realtor, that seller is saving thousands of dollars. But you want to make sure that you have a reputable closing company that you're working with. And now it's so nice because we just have our lady at the closing company where we're like, hey, just so you know, we kind of keep her in the loop. We've got a house. This is the address. We're pretty close to coming to an agreement. And then as soon as we have a signed offer sheet from like the house owner, we literally just send that over to her. She gets the ball rolling. And for us, when we're buying like this, it's a quick close. So it's like, okay, we're going to close in whatever it is, 30 days, 60 days, whatever. She gets it all going. She gets the lawyers and all the legal stuff done. And then we show up to that closing office. She's got all the paperwork out. And literally, we're both signed. It's under a 10-minute meeting. Literally, it's amazing. I wish more people knew about it. So understand every fee. Have a backup plan. What happens if it doesn't sell right away, right? So if you're flipping to sell, what happens if it doesn't sell right away? Well, can you rent it temporarily? Can you find a tenant that maybe wants a 6-month lease? We haven't had that. Everyone that we have planned to sell after we flipped it, we actually had it sold except for one before we had even listed it or advertised for it. So people had seen it on Instagram or Facebook or word of mouth, which has been amazing. Start small. Your first flip doesn't need to be huge. One of our first ones, oh my goodness, had no basement, had one bathroom. It had 3 tiny, maybe the house, I'd have to ask Matt for sure, was maybe 900 square feet, one level, maybe 800 square feet. Just a little house. That was not our first one, but do not look at the big old houses. Think that, again, HGTV, when you are starting out, you want to start with a smaller project so you can learn the process with less pressure. Be conservative with your numbers. I kind of talked about numbers in previous podcasts, but run your analysis based on worst case scenarios. If the deal still works and makes sense, it's probably a good one. So here are some common finance mistakes to avoid. Number 1, over leveraging. Borrowing too much leaves you no safety net. So again, I kind of talked about that where the bank was like, oh, we actually on this, when we did the refinancing, we were in signing papers. And she's like, okay, so here's the total amount that will be, and it was $40,000 over what we told them. And we said no. And she's like, wait, what? And she was actually helping the guy that we work with. He was out of town. So she was filling in. And we said, no, we told him we only wanted to borrow this amount. And she's like, oh, so it just took her like 10 minutes. She had to go in and do all the paperwork. We felt bad, but we were not going to take out or borrow more money than we needed to on that refinance. No, thank you. So Don't over leverage. Just because they're going to give you the money doesn't mean you need to take that money. It's kind of like when they're like, oh, you can afford a $400,000 house, when you really crunch your numbers, like for you to live in. When you really crunch the numbers, you're like, wait, the mortgage is this much and I still have all these other bills? Like, that doesn't make sense. And that is something my dad taught us when we were first buying our first house, because he had sold real estate and he knew. I mean, my dad was a wealth of information and help for us over the years. But just because they say they're going to loan you that amount doesn't mean it's the best, right? I tell this to my kids all the time. You have to look out for you always, no matter if it's especially your money, because somebody else is going to spend your money faster than you ever will without looking at your full well-being. Does that make sense? Even if it is your bank that you've banked in for 30 years, you have to be on top of those things. You have to look out for you, right? Nobody else is going to take care of you more than you. Okay, skipping the math. Always run the numbers. Do not skip this part every single time. You have to do that. Otherwise, you're going to end up not in a good situation. Getting emotionally attached. This is another one that I think it's one of the biggest mistakes. And I've been there. But now I know if it doesn't, we've come so close, like $2,500 on a deal for a house. If it doesn't, they don't want to come up that $2,500 or come down, usually. It's the deal's not going to work. Even if I know it's going to be the best project, the best makeover, the best, nope. Love the numbers, not the house. Let me say that again. Love the numbers, not the house. A next common mistake, this is a huge one, and this is one where I think I would hesitate to work with anybody else, partner with somebody on a project. It's ignoring timelines. I am very, Matt and I work well together. And I am very on timeline, on budget, okay, we're doing this much work, you better too. Do you know what I'm saying? So every extra month that you hold on to a property, you're paying for it. You are paying for it. And I see people where they're like, oh, it's okay, we'll get to it. Or it's like, no, we know that we are going to be busting our butts for 3 to 4 months. It is our life. Every waking moment, we are at that property working on it, or we have somebody there working on it, depending on what it is. You cannot ignore your timelines. Okay, I think that's it. I get excited, and so I go off on tangents. So I'm hoping this is helpful. Again, share this podcast if you know anybody thinking about it or who would find this information helpful. Financing doesn't have to be scary. It just has to make sense. Just like the numbers have to make sense before you even make an offer. The key is knowing your options. Understanding all the costs and choosing what fits your goals and your comfort level. You do not have to be, wealthy to start flipping and have, hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in the bank. You just need to plan smart, think long term, and use financing as a tool to help you grow, right? Not as a crutch that buries you into debt. It is a tool. By the time we wrap up this series, I hope you have like a full roadmap for finding the right flip, funding it, managing it, and actually making a profit without losing your mind in the process. Like, that's my goal. And it's also just kind of, I just wanted to put these all together so that I can help answer the most asked questions, like I said. I do want to say here, if you have any questions about this topic or any of the podcasts that you listen to, you can always reach out to me, DM me on Instagram at mycreativedays. My email, lindsay@mycreativedays.com. You can email there as well. Send me your follow-up questions or just questions in general. Like I said, it always helps me. And if you are a podcast listener, you need to make sure that you are following or subscribed to our YouTube channel. We upload the podcast to YouTube every Monday. So you are always going to be able to listen to the podcast on our YouTube channel. And we have been discussing back and forth some changes we might be making about hosting and all of that stuff. But YouTube is not going to change. So if you enjoy the podcast, make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. We will leave a link to that in the show notes. It's youtube.com/@, My Creative Days. I'm on every platform at My Creative Days. But like I said, we'll leave a link in the show notes. If you enjoy the podcast at all, please head over to the YouTube channel today after listening to this and hit subscribe. If you click the bell there as well, you will be notified when anything new comes up on the YouTube channel. And not only that, I am uploading new videos every week on the YouTube channel. So all of our flip houses, all of the projects we've done in the flip houses, the DIY projects, the furniture flipping videos, I have thrifting video, like all the things are on the YouTube channel as well. But specifically, if you like the podcast, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Okay, that's it for this episode. Until next time, I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you very soon. Hello, friends. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I'm grateful that you tune in every week and that you share the show with your family and friends. I love having creative chit chats with you, and my hope is that this podcast will inspire you to try a new project, start a DIY that you've been putting off, and decorate your home exactly how you want it. There are a few ways you can help us with the podcast. Follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you could take a few minutes to leave the podcast a review, that would help us so much. Again, thank you for being here, and I look forward to our chat next week. Bye-bye.